Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spitting Venom. And right now what we are watching is the intro to the new Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions edition. And this edition, I guess the original game came out in 97 in Japan, in 1997, but it wasn't released until like early 1998 here in the United States. And I remember when it came out, I was very, very excited to play it because when I saw like an ad for it, it looked really cool. It was like knights, and riding chocobos, and it was more medieval set, and that interested me way more than what Final Fantasy did, Final Fantasy VII did, which was, kind of make it look futuristic and, more sci-fi looking. And although I love Final Fantasy VII, and I thought that was a great game, ultimately what, I kind of draw to is definitely things that look like medieval and stuff. I especially at that time in my life, I was big time into that kind of stuff. So when it first came out, I was, all right, I'll give it a try. And then when I saw that it was, tactic based, that was my first introduction to a tactic based game like that. And I fell in love with the battle system, which you'll see here soon. But real quick, we'll talk about Aneurysm here, who is the student from Ivalice in the future. So what you're kind of seeing in this storyline is it's kind of being read to you in a way by Aneurysm, and that character is like studying, imagine like 100 years from now, someone trying to find the truth in what happened in something that happens today in our current timeline. And that's what Aneurysm's kind of trying to do. He's looking back into the past and trying to figure out if the story that he and other scholars are telling and that people are learning about, if it's actually true. Because the way the story is being told is that someone named Delita is like this, champion of the people in a way, and rose up and fought against tyranny and all this stuff. And this, Aneurysm believes something different, and according to what he's read in different books and different accounts. And then he finds basically like these lost papers that were never published, and starts to piece together who the real hero of that time period is, which is this character Ramza Bielv. And Ramza is the character that we play as in this game. So right here he says, "Join me in my search to uncover the answers." And then before we begin, might I ask you to share with me your name and the date of your birth? And here I actually was learning the controls again, because I'm playing this actually on my Samsung phone. It blew me away. I was so excited that I was able to download this game on the Samsung and play it at its quality. It's really, really a good port of this game on the mobile. It's amazing. I'm having a lot of fun with it, but I did kind of screw up like at the beginning when I was trying to set the date. I was trying to use the touchscreen, and for whatever reason I screwed it up, and I just hit January 1st. So that's why you saw me just kind of blaze through that real quick. So this is our student here, Aneurysm, and I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. I think it's a guy. But I'm not 100% sure on that. I think it's a guy though. And like I said, he's a student in the future. And right now this is kind of them conveying, all right, this is him. He's opening the scrolls. He's looking at the maps from back, in the day when, the Zodiac Brave story, that's the story he's looking up. And he's trying to figure out how accurate the stuff he's been taught is, so that he can tell the truth about maybe what really happened during these wars, the War of the Lions. And I actually like that title. I mean, when it was originally called Final Fantasy Tactics, I was like, okay. And, that works. It describes the game very well. But then once you play the game and you get really into the storyline, there is more there. There is so much more there. And these characters are very rich and very interesting and very well done. And so adding the War of the Lions also sums up the game storyline really well. Final Fantasy Tactics, the title, labels the game properly. But War of the Lions, I think, is a phenomenal title for this specific storyline. So I'm glad they included that. And I'm sure it was not easy trying to figure out a title, but War of the Lions fits really, really well. And here we're seeing this opening cutscene. I love this style, this like sketchy pencil art. Looks amazing. I think it's so beautiful. And, unfortunately the original game, also had a cutscene opening with, CG characters, like, their versions, or that version of, 1996, 1997 CG, like very blocky looking. And it's these characters running across the open land on chocobos. But this new version is just leaps and bounds above. And the director of this game is Yasumi Matsuno. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I believe he did both versions, if I'm not mistaken. I think he came back to do this version. I could be wrong. A lot of great artists and people worked on this game. Yasumi Matsuno also was the writer of the game too. So completely created this whole storyline, this whole everything. It's a single player tactical role playing game. It's so much fun. My first time playing something like this, and definitely not my last, because anytime I would see a game after this come out that said tactics on it, I would give it a try. Even if it was bad, I was like, I gotta try it because I like the style. I think even recently they did a Mario Rabbids crossover, and if you've played that game, then you've pretty much played like a Final Fantasy Tactics game as far as battle goes. But there's like a class system in this where you create job classes for your characters and all this, and it's very intricate and detailed, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. Normally games like this kind of, I'm turned off by in a way. Like I tend not to play too many of these types of games, like RPG games, because just the amount of time it takes to get through one. But man, this story, it hooks you almost right away for me. I mean, it got me right in, right with this opening scene here, and you seeing these characters. And I gotta say, again, looking at this on a mobile game, on phone, just checking it out on a phone is so crazy. If I would go back to 1997 or 1998 and tell myself in high school, because I think I was probably a junior in high school when this game came out, if I were to tell that version of me, hey, you're going to play this on a phone one day and it's going to record, what do you think of that? I'm pretty sure I would think I was crazy. I would be like, there's no way. Like, you're crazy. Not in my lifetime. That's not going to happen. But yeah, just like 22 years later, we're doing it, or 21 years later. So the reason this game was re-released, though, they were doing something called Square Enix was doing something called the Avalis Alliance. And I guess they were trying to tie in the world of Final Fantasy Tactics, because this world of Ivalice is really rich and detailed, and there's a lot of story going on. And what it looks like is that it's set in the medieval times, where there's but adding in magic and things like this. But what you actually find out as the game progresses is that centuries or so earlier, that humanity actually relied on machinery, and so really what was cool about this is that if you looked at it, at one point in time, humanity peaked, had skyscrapers, had all these machineries, had these robots, had all these, future tech, and then it collapsed. Something happened that made all of us revert back to almost living like medieval ages, and going back, to church and worship. It was I just love that idea of humanity on a loop in a way, where we get to this level where we invented everything, and then we lose it all and go back to nothing, and then have to build ourselves back up, not knowing we've already lost everything. And the idea of that was so cool to me. So that made me, that pulled me into this world just so much more than it already was pulling me into. So as this game progresses, we learn more and more about that. And it's freaking awesome. So it's such a cool concept to me to think that we are just in a hamster wheel, and we'll always be in a hamster wheel. It's scary, but at the same time, it's fascinating. But I always like that. And so Ivalice is this world where there was a time of machines, and I think Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, tells the story of that time period. So actually there is another Final Fantasy storyline set in this world, and I believe that's called Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age. So that kind of goes over more with different characters, and it's set a couple hundred years before this game, which is cool. And then Arazalam, the guy who's reading the scrolls and trying to find out the truth, he's 100 or 200 years in the future from now, trying to figure out what really happened in this war. So now we're going back in time, and he's basically telling you the story. You're learning the truth. So as you're watching this game, you're not just playing a game, but you're actually unveiling the truth about what really happened during this war. And I'm going to speed up the battle here, because some of these battles we might linger on, and some of them I might just speed up. But this is just my way of just getting through some of this a little bit faster. So you're going to see everything's happening in faster motion. But that's also because I'm learning in these first couple battles. I'm learning the controls again. I'm figuring things out, how to rotate the camera. I'm not very good at it because I forgot how to do all this stuff, because it's been a while since I played it. And then also playing it on a phone with touchscreen and everything, it took some getting used to, at first, because I actually don't play a lot of mobile games, because for the past 4 years I've had a Windows phone, and I haven't been able to play mobile games. So this is me not only figuring out the game itself that I love, but also figuring out a mobile game in general. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating at first, but I got the hang of it pretty quickly. In this match, first we start off here. We have, there's a princess, and she's or soon to be queen, I guess, and she's inside the church, and there's these men who are coming to take her. So it's kind of hard to describe because, like I said, there's a lot of time jumps here. But for the sake of clarity, let's just talk about Aneurysm is a few hundred years in the future, and he's reading about this, trying to figure out what happens. We'll call this time period present day, because that's kind of what it is. This is where the storyline, for the most part, moves from. So this is the start point, and what's going to happen is this game is like split up into 4 chapters, and the first chapter is this one. So we're starting in present day, but then we're also going to go back a few years. So after this battle, and we reveal a character that, we're like, who's that character, as the audience, but the main character knows who it is. And so it's like, okay, that's going to be our launching point to go back into the past, to learn who that character is, to figure out why they're important, why them, kidnapping the princess is so important, and what ramifications that has on our main character. So it's kind of fun. So it's like we start off here in present day, we're going to go back a couple years, and it's hard to call it present day because, like I said, Aneurysm is technically present day because he's a few hundred years in the future learning about all this. So I really, that's present day, but just for the sake of keeping things simple for everybody here, and for myself, we'll call this present day, and pretty much the rest of the game is going to take place during this time period. These cutscenes are beautiful. I love them. They're so freaking good. And adding the voice acting is great because I wasn't sure, like when they were talking about really re-releasing it and call it War of the Lions, I wasn't sure what they were going to add other than some of the gameplay and class systems they updated. I think they changed some of the job classes to like arithmetic is like a new job class. I'm not super familiar. There's definitely other people out there who are way more knowledgeable about this game. I've played it a handful of times, but like anything any game I play over and over, the only thing that resonates with me is the story. The gameplay itself, I just kind of react to. It's like it's things I do in the moment, and I'm not paying a bunch of attention to it. So like the job classes, I didn't even notice the job class names changed until I read like a post where someone said, oh yeah, it's called arithmetic now, and I was like, what was it called before? And I think it was called calculator or something like that. So yeah, I don't know, there's all these different things they've updated and changed, but me, I just care about this stuff, the story here. And you see Ramza kind of get side-eyed there by Delita, and he thought Delita was gone. He didn't know his friend had survived basically an explosion that we're going to get to. That's kind of where chapter 1 ends. So here we are, the princess got captured. The one mission this group had was to protect her. They failed at it, and so now we're going to transition into Ramza's mind essentially, and we're going to go back in time to the beginning for him, like not when he met Delita, but when they got sent on like their first quest together, the beginning of their story, as far as like how it led to the what he thought was the end of their story. So yeah, the loss of the 50 Years' War was something. The 50 Years' War happened before this, so this is what they're kind of recovering from. So if you can imagine like a brutal civil war or world war that lasts 50 years, I mean, geez, these people really couldn't let it go until there was a winner. So now that there's these 7, I guess, realms or kingdoms or territories in Ivalice, and most of them were at this big war, and we'll talk more about that as we get into it some more. But then here you see chapter 1, the meager. I like the titles of the chapters; they're actually really good. But Ivalice, like I said, it's 7 territories, and I think I'm going to butcher some of these names, I'm sure, because some of them I'm going off memory for. But I think they're Fofaham, I think, something like that. Galeon, Limberry, Lionel, I think, Zeltenia, and then there was one called the Royal Capital of Leslie, but I think they changed it to Lasalia in this version, and then also the Holy Territory of Morond, but I think they now just call that Muland in the new versions. And I don't know why the changes. I don't know if maybe they were mistranslated the first time, and this is more an accurate translation. I actually don't know the reasons for the changes at all. Yeah, so Ivalice is kind of made up of those kingdoms. They have neighbors. The kingdom of Ordalia, I think, is in the east, and Ramonda is also in the east. And then there's a couple other ones. I'm blanking. I can't remember everything, unfortunately. But I'm going to pat myself on the back for knowing a couple things. But here we have our troops basically forming together. Before this started, I cut out the footage of me creating my first squires and chemists, because that's kind of where you start. You get 2 squires and 2 chemists, I think, and then you get your main character, and then you get Delita, and then occasionally you'll pick up other members into your group and into your team. And basically, I don't know, there's the chemist job I like more than the squire job. The squire job is kind of a brute in a way, like an early level brute, so it's just there to get you going. So if you just want to fight with a sword or something like that, a squire is the way to go. A chemist is the way to go if you want to eventually develop into magic abilities. You can change someone into a chemist, learn a bunch of chemist stuff, and make them a knight or a monk, or you can totally customize it however you want. But kind of the direction that these 2 job classes kind of branch out from is squire. If you keep leveling up squire, you'll get into a knight, and then you'll turn into a monk, and then you can become a dragoon, and you can become these more fierce fighters. And if you're a chemist, that's going to lead you into other things like magic and stuff. So that'll put you on the path to become a white mage, which, someone who learns healing and protecting abilities, or a black mage who learns lightning and, fire and ice and all that stuff. So yeah, and then those go on from there to summoners and other things. So that's kind of the basis you start off with. Everyone's either going to be a squire or a chemist. And then you branch out from there, and you'll see as we play through this. I got a lot of playthroughs on here, and I'm trying to edit them down to half-hour episodes the best I can, or around half hours, and you'll see a lot. And that's why I'm speeding up through the battles for some of them, because, like I said, some of it's a learning curve for me, but then also some of them, it could be, I can understand it can be kind of boring to watch some of these. But I'll kind of explain the storyline here. So these knights, or not knights yet, but Ramza and Delita and his group, they're being sent out to go on missions from his older brothers. Like Ramza he's from the Baal family, and he has older brothers who are all kind of generals, and one of them's even in charge. He's like a king, and there's good brothers and bad brothers, as we're going to learn throughout the story. There's a lot of cool twists in the storyline with that. But Delita is his best friend, who's kind of a commoner. A lot of people look down at their friendship, but Ramza appreciates their friendship. He likes Delita as a friend. They've grown up together, and even though Delita is not of royal blood, Ramza still views him as an equal, and that's very important to the storyline, because Delita's not actually seen like that from anyone else for the most part. Even a lot of Ramza's brothers don't even see him. Even the nicer ones sometimes don't see him that way. And so Delita has a younger sister too, who we're going to meet here in a little bit, and she's kind of, looks up to her brother. She's very proud of him. He's, trying to become a knight, even though he's not of royal blood. He can't be a real member of the guard. Right now they're all kind of in training, and they're going on these missions, but they're going to prove themselves throughout this first chapter, and they're going to be very involved in the plot, that's happening between this war that's brewing, the aftermath of the previous war, and where these men of power want to take their world from here on out. And, Ramza and Delita are smack in the middle of it, whether they knew it or not at first, but they end up realizing it and basically sticking through with it. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, like I said, it's people in power manipulating people who are beneath them, or who they deem beneath them. And it gets crazy, and it's very political, but it's also, has a lot of action and a lot of great characters in it too. And I think, I always thought this would make a great TV series. I thought they should have made an anime series out of this, or even a live action. But I live in a dream world, I guess, because I don't know how many other fans out there of this game there are. I know it has a hardcore fan base, but I don't think it has a large fan base. And I could be wrong. But I kept hoping with every new edition, like War of the Lions and mobile version, I kept hoping people will find this game and play it for themselves, because, even to pull someone like me in, who, I've played Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, and 10, and a couple of the earlier Final Fantasies, but I've played them all 1 or 2 times. I think Final Fantasy 7 maybe I played 4 times completely through. So it's not like, it's in my head pretty well, but not really, really well. This game I've probably beaten at least 50 times. No kidding. Like at least 50 times that I've played through this entire game straight through on multiple different platforms, like PlayStation 1 when it originally came out. Probably played it like 25 times at least on there. The PSP, I think I beat it like a dozen or so times on the PSP. And then also I think I had like another version. I can't remember. Like a digital, maybe I downloaded it digitally. I lost the disc, I think, and I can't remember. But I've played it so many times now, and now having it on the phone, it's great. And having this feature on my phone that allows me to record, so hopefully you guys can hear me, pretty well. I know you can't see me, but at least you can hear me while this is being played. And I did edit it first, and I'm recording my audio afterwards because it just made the most sense. So, because normally I don't do this. This definitely adds too many steps to a video game playthrough, and I don't have a lot of free time to do this many steps. But for this one, I was like, I'm making the exception. We're going to record, I think the whole first chapter done now, and that's what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to complete a whole chapter and then edit the episodes together. That way I know what to skip over, what to edit out and stuff, and then what to speed up. Because like these, this battle here, for example, this battle ran for like 14 minutes or something like that, and I edited it down, tripled the speed or something and brought it down to like 4 or 5 minutes. So yeah, sometimes I'll just ramble and shoot the crap with you and just talk about random things, and then other times I'll focus on the story. And then pretty much the battles, the way I'm going to edit them is what you're seeing here. The first attack, I'll show you the first attack so you can kind of see how the game moves in regular motion, and then the final blow that ends the battle. So then here we are in Gareland, and Gareland is a city in the game. So like I said, there are 7 territories, but each territory has, numerous cities and stuff. And there's a lot of hidden things in this. There's a lot of, like secret characters we're going to find and everything like that. And I apologize if I called Alazlam a Razlam earlier. I think I said a Razlam, but it's Alazlam J. Durai. And I actually wrote that down, and here I am not even looking at my own sheet of paper while I'm recording this, so I apologize. His name is Alazlam J. Durai, and that's the historian who is seeking to reveal the true story about what happened during the Lion War, because a lot of it was covered up by the church. So he found these old documents hidden from by the church, and he's peeling back the layers and piecing together this story here. And then you saw there I was about to go to our next location, because after you finish a battle, the world map opens up and it gives you different cities and areas you can go to. I was about to go, but then it triggered this scene here, which is Barbaneth Belv, a great hero in his own right who was attained the distinguished. So he's basically like in charge. He's my brother, who is a very valiant knight and sits very high up there in the chain of command. But he's sick. After the 50 Years' War and other things going on, he's not doing so well. And I'm sorry, did I call him brother? I meant to say father, as the words Lord Father pop up on screen. This is our father, and he is talking to my brothers, and we're going to be coming in here very soon. There's Dysadarg, our brother, Lord Dysadarg. He's more of the church, I guess, more of the cloth, man of the cloth. And then our other brother is a knight. Barbaneth is our father, obviously, you see here. And there's Alma, our sister. And Alma is our sister, but Delita has a sister as well. And her and Alma are friends. Zalbag, that's our other brother. And he's kind of a general, and he's kind of a badass, actually. But there's some twists and turns, like I said. There's a lot going on in this storyline. But Ramza, the difference between him and his other brothers and why he's also kind of mingling with commoners, I guess, is and why maybe some people maybe look down on him and others don't, is because Ramza's not a full-blooded Belv the way the others are. Barbaneth here, being a king, pretty much fooled around with anybody he felt he wanted to fool around with. So he had a wife, and she was, queen and lord with him. But after they had their first 2 sons here, she basically, I think she died. I believe she died. And then so he hooked up with, another woman, like someone who wasn't of royal blood. And so Ramza is the offspring of that relationship. And I think that's also why Ramza has that point of view of trying to treat people with with more equality, and that's why he's befriended Delita and sees him as a similar one. Even though everybody wants Ramza to embrace his royal blood side, he's choosing to embrace the other side, and that's what keeps him connected to Delita, which we'll talk more about in the next episode, because as we end here, we're going to watch our father die, and we have a lot more story to come up, so make sure you subscribe, and we'll have more episodes coming very, very soon. Thanks so much. See you in the future. Peace.